Hello learners, welcome to NIOS Studio. I am Partho Sarothi Ghodai, Academic Officer from NIOS. Today we will discuss about the lesson 25 from your biology book, that is Principle of Ecology from module 4. So in today's program we will learn about meaning of environment, ecology, biosphere, various components of the environment and the various levels of organization of life. We will also try to understand about the terms like habitat, niche, population community, biome, interrelationship between plant and animal in an ecosystem, and as well as food chain and food web. So, what is environment, ecology and biosphere? In environment, we all know that environment is our surroundings, that is all the physical, chemical and biotic condition that is surrounding and influencing a living organism. So the factors of environment, we can divide them into two groups, that is biotic and another is abiotic. Abiotic factors are temperature, light, pressure, wind, rocks, chemicals, minerals, and the biotic factors are all living organisms like human, animal and plant, microorganism like fungi, animalia. So the based on the uses, the abiotic factors are divided into two groups. One is resource factor, another one is regulatory factor. Resource factors are air, soil as well as water. Here actually we use the air, soil and water as a resource for our livelihood. Like from soil we cultivate the crops, for water we drink it, through air we are breathing it. And the another one is regulatory factor. The regulatory factors actually they actually help in the human livelihood through various regulatory processes like light and then temperature as well as pressure. Then comes what is ecology. Ecology is basically the scientific study of the relationship and interaction between organism and their environment. This ecology term was coined by German scientist Ernst Haeckel. It was basically derived from a Greek word which is oikology, which means from where the term ecology has been derived. Here the oikos means household and logos means study. So the word oikology meaning the study of household and its surroundings. Then what are the organizations of our life? So a human body is building block of several components. So at the basic level there is gene. Through gene, the genes are the hereditary material of human, and within a cell there are number of genes, and by number of cell there is the formation of organ. Through assemblage of organ there will form one organism. Number of organism will constitute the species population. Number of species population will constitute the community. From community at the upper level we get the particular ecosystem like pond ecosystem, marine ecosystem, and by assemblage of this ecosystem we will get biome, and through biome at the upper level and the highest level we will get the biosphere. So an organism is a self-reproducing system capable of growing and maintaining itself, and it is directly influenced by surrounding environment. A population is an assemblage of similar organisms belonging to the same species which are living together at one place at a given time. A population always lives in a specific place which is known as its habitat. Some of the example of the habitat will be the forest, and in the forest there will be the number of the animals like elephant, tiger. Similarly, another habitat will be ocean. Many different species with similar requirement may have the same habitat. For example, in a single ocean as a habitat, the ocean will support the whale as well as seahorse, then seal, then phytoplankton, seaweeds and many other organisms. So then comes what is habitat. Habitat is basically the physical environment in which an organism lives, and the example of such habitat is some forest, ocean and river. And a habitat is component of is comprised of four things, that is space, food, water, cover and shelter. Here you can here you will see the various major habitat of the earth, that is terrestrial habitat, that means they are the land based habitat, that is they may be forest habitat, they may be grassland habitat, and there is also freshwater habitat. Freshwater means that is river based ecosystem or the lake based ecosystem. Then it comes ocean habitat, and the fourth one is estuarine habitat. The estuarine habitat is formed where particularly a river meets the sea, that is it is a transitional area between river ecosystem and ocean ecosystem. And you may heard of the Sundarban. It is a one kind of estuarine habitat found in India as well as in Bangladesh. In nature, we can see the many species occupy the same habitat, but they perform the different function. These functional characteristics of a species in its habitat is referred as a niche. While habitat of a species is like an address, and we can think of niche as its profession. Therefore, a niche is a very unique to a species. While many species may share the same habitat, but no two species in a habitat cannot have a same niche. This is because if two species occupy the same niche, they will compete with each other until one is displaced, because there is always a competition for resources between two organisms. That's why in a particular niche two organisms cannot be found. So as we have told, the niche is the sum total of all the activities and relationship of a species by which it uses the resources in its habitat for its survival and as well as reproduction. And in a niche, for animal there are the important resources are food and shelter, while for plant the important resources are moisture as well as nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur and various other micronutrients. So the example of one niche will be the forest vegetation. A forest support the various number of trees like tall tree, short tree, shrub, bushes and grass, and these tall, short, shrub, bush and grass is there itself is a niche, and at the particular type of niche there are always the differential requirement for light and nutrient for the animal which resides there. Here you can see the ecological niche of a human being. Here the human in an ecosystem interact with grass, fruit, cow, crab, fish and hen, and here through this interaction they exploit these natural resources, and here the environment here where it lives serves as a ecological niche for human being. Similarly, in this picture where you can see a plant is a ecological niche for several species. Here at the bottom level, root feeding grub is living on the root, where the root acts as a host for this root feeding grub, and then the lower leaf there is infection by a serpentine leaf miner. Here the lower leaves acts as a habitat for serpentine leaf miner, and at the upper level you can see there is lace swing as well as shoot and moth larva, and they are also, and the upper leaf here also acts as a habitat for the lace bug. Then comes what is adaptation. In environment several species are present, but over the several years they have been adapted to a particular environment or particular habitat. So by definition we can call that the adaptation is the appearance or behavior or structure or mode of life of an organism that allows it to survive in a particular environment. Adaptation is always genetically transferable through the gene. For example, the presence of gills and fins are the adaptation of fish living in aquatic habitat. Similarly, for aquatic flowering plant, there is a adaptations like absence of wood formation and highly reduced root system. And then some of the other adaptation that are found in animal and plant, that will be the shape of bird beak is suited to the kind of food it needs, and the thickness or thinness of the fur depend on the environment where animal lives, and there are presence of feathers and wings in the birds for movement in the air, and also there is presence of thorn on the leaves and stem for protection of herbivore. The adaptation of in the type of beaks in birds. Here you can see the long and thin beak for the birds is useful for pulling out the worms out of the mud, and then also there is a strong beak of parrot that is particularly useful for crushing of nut, and also the flat beak also helps in the feeding on the fish, insects and plants in water. Then what is species and population? So a species is a group of organisms which can interbreed and reproduce successfully, while the population, and when the species are geographically different from each other due to presence of some geographical barrier, these small groups are called population. For example, the human population lives in different geographical area, but suppose due to Himalaya they are particularly dispersed in different areas, and in the north there is China, in south there is India. So we can see that in the northern side of Himalaya there is a population, one group of population living in China and other group of population living in India. Then comes what is the traits of a population. Traits of population can be of 2 or 3 types. One, that will be the sex ratio. Sex ratio means the ratio of male and female in a particular population. This ratio is particularly fixed at a particular time. However, they may change over a period of time, like in weeks, years and the months. As well as there is another trait is age structure. It means the various age group which are found in the population. Also, an individual is born and dies, but a population always continues. So what are the factors that affecting the traits of a population? These are density of population, also there is natality or birth rate, that is also called, and there is another mortality or death rate, age distribution, dispersion, growth form, as well as biotic potential. So what is density? Density means the number of individual living per unit area at a given time. this is known as population density. Density of a particular organism in a region is determined by a quadrate method. Here the random samples are drawn from quadrate and they are evaluated for the population studies. For large mobile animals like the tiger, leopard, lion and deer, the density is determined by counting the individual animal or by the pug marks. So next come what is birth rate. Birth rate is basically the rate at which the new individuals are born or added to the population, while the death rate is loss of individual from a population due to death under a given environmental condition. Both of this birth rate as well as death rate is counted as the number of birth or death per thousand per year. And then another factor is dispersal. Dispersal means both emigration as well as immigration. Emigration means basically the movement of individual of a population out of the region, where the immigration means movement of an individual into a new area where they become part of a new population. So here you can see the density of a particular population, how they are affected by immigration, natality and mortality. Here you can find that the immigration and natality have a positive effect, due to which the population density of a particular region increases, while the immigration and mortality has a negative effect. Due to this, the density of a particular of a population in a particular region decreases. Then comes what is age distribution. Age distribution is the proportion of individual of different age group found in a population. Based on age distribution, a population is divided into three parts, that is pre-reproductive part, another is reproductive, another one is post-reproductive. The pre-reproductive population is basically juvenile or children population. The reproductive population are capable of producing they are reproduces, and the post reproductive population are incapable of reproduction. So a rapidly growing population will usually contain a large proportion of individual in a reproductive age group. They may be stationary population, and another one they may be declining population. In stationary population there is no increase or decrease in population, while in declining population contains a large proportion of old and individuals. Another one is sex ratio, as we have discussed that it is the ratio between female and male individual in a population. The growth, stability or decline in number of individual in a population is influenced by its relationship with the environment. The size of a population of a species keeps on changing with time and depending on the various factors such as weather, food availability and predation pressure. Population have always a characteristics pattern of growth, which we can describe through various growth curves. Population growth curves are generally two types. One is J-shaped growth curve, another one is S-shaped growth curve. J-shaped growth curve is particularly found in the microorganism which show the very fast growth, while the S-shaped growth curve is particularly more common in the nature. Here in the S-shaped growth curve there is three phase, one and the another, and here is the three phase, another is the lag phase, log phase and another and the mature phase. So the species with a J-shaped growth curve are those that reproduce quickly and are heavily influenced by seasonal variation like light, temperature, precipitation. Population density grows exponentially where there is a plentiful quantity of resources available to the community. This kind of exponential growth happens naturally, and environmental and other variables cause a quick drop or decline after reaching its height. The insect population that exhibit the rapid increase during monsoon season and then abrupt disappearance occurs at the conclusion of the season. And for the age-shaped calf, when the growth phase begins, there is a rapid increase in size of population and there is a plenty of food occurs, and this phase there is no competition. And eventually when the food or water or some resources becomes limiting, the population enters into a stable phase, and therefore the natality and mortality almost becomes equal. So then comes what is biological community. So biological community refers to the population of different species occupying a common space of living. This biological community we can refer in a pond ecosystem. Here all the organisms which are present in pond can be called as a biological community. So ecosystem is basically a combination of biological community as well as non-living environment. There is another term is called scene ecology, that is study of group of organism in relation to their environment. Then comes biosphere. Biosphere is basically one component of ecosphere, where the other components are lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere. The biosphere basically a thin layer on and around the earth which sustain the lives, while the atmosphere is a gaseous envelope around the earth. Hydrosphere is the all sources of water, and the lithosphere comprises of soil, rock and earth crust, and this lithosphere supports the plant growth. Then comes ecosystem. Ecosystem is a community or group of living organisms that live in or interact with each other in a specific environment. Here you can find the terrestrial ecosystem. These are forest, desert and grassland, and another there is also aquatic ecosystem, that is pond, lake and wetland. Here you can find the component of a particular ecosystem. Here are the some components are solar energy, atmosphere, nutrients, producer, consumer, and there will be a respiration process, abiotic component, decomposer. Basically from sun, plant receives the solar energy where they can photosynthesize and produce the food and the deer feeds this plant. When the deer dies, the decomposition occurs, and the decomposing remains add nutrient to the soil, and plant from soil take up their nutrient, and also during respiration plant utilize carbon dioxide from the air. Then here you can see pond ecosystem. Pond ecosystem, here also there is a number of components. There are phytoplankton, zooplankton, and also there is rooted vegetation, bacteria and fungi. Students, let's take a break. We will discuss about more of this pond ecosystem after the break.
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय शिक्षा संस्थान NIOS शिक्षा मंत्रालय भारत सरकार के अंतर्गत एक स्वायत्त संस्थान है। NIOS माध्यमिक व उच्चतर माध्यमिक स्तर पर समावेशी और लचीली शिक्षा व व्यावसायिक प्रशिक्षण प्रदान करने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध है। भारत सरकार कौशल विकास से आत्मनिर्भरता को बढ़ावा दे रही है। स्कूली स्तर पर आवश्यकता आधारित व्यावसायिक पाठ्यक्रमों से युवा कुशल होकर निजी व्यवसाय और सेवाओं में जा रहे हैं। NIOS कृषि, पशुपालन, सौंदर्य, इंजीनियरिंग, ICT, योग, आयुर्वेद, प्राकृतिक चिकित्सा, गृह विज्ञान, सिलाई कढ़ाई क्षेत्रों में 100 से भी अधिक व्यावसायिक पाठ्यक्रम संचालित कर रहा है। NIOS अपने अध्ययन केंद्रों यानी AVI के माध्यम से इन पाठ्यक्रमों का संचालन, प्रायोगिक प्रशिक्षण व व्यक्तिगत संपर्क कार्यक्रम यानी PCP का आयोजन करता है। राष्ट्रीय व्यावसायिक शिक्षा एवं प्रशिक्षण परिषद NCVET एक राष्ट्रीय नियामक है। यह प्रशिक्षण प्रणालियों के विकास, गुणात्मक सुधार और विनियमन के लिए जिम्मेदार संस्था है, जो विभिन्न संस्थाओं व मूल्यांकन एजेंसियों को मान्यता प्रदान करता है। रोजगार क्षमता में सुधार व त्वरित विकास के लिए NIOS ने NCVET के साथ हाल ही में एक समझौता ज्ञापन हस्ताक्षरित किया है। अब NIOS के NCVET स्वीकृत पाठ्यक्रमों को दोहरी मान्यता मिलेगी व शिक्षार्थियों को उन्नत प्रमाणन प्राप्त होगा। इससे शिक्षार्थियों में व्यावसायिक पाठ्यक्रमों के प्रति लोकप्रियता बढ़ेगी एवं स्वीकार्यता का विकास होगा। कम शुल्क और दोहरी मान्यता वाले इन पाठ्यक्रमों में प्लम्बिंग सेक्टर से जुड़े ड्रिंकिंग वाटर प्यूरिफायर टेक्नीशियन कोर्स के साथ NIOS ने प्रशिक्षण कार्यक्रम का संचालन प्रारंभ कर दिया है। भविष्य में अन्य पाठ्यक्रमों को इसी क्रम में विकसित कर NIOS आत्मनिर्भर भारत के निर्माण में अपना योगदान देगा। निश्चित ही इससे शिक्षार्थियों को रोजगार व स्वाभिमान मिलेगा। ऊर्जावान युवाओं, NIOS के व्यावसायिक प्रशिक्षण कार्यक्रमों से आज ही जुड़िए। अधिक जानकारी व प्रवेश के लिए लॉग इन करें www.nios.ac.in।
Welcome back, students. So we were discussing about pond ecosystem. So here we have discussed about various component of pond ecosystem, that is there are several biotic as well as abiotic components. So the abiotic components of a pond ecosystem can be categorized as a climatic regime, inorganic and organic substances. The pond receives the solar radiation which provides it heat and light energy to sustain the life. In case of shallow ponds with clear water, sunlight can penetrate up to the bottom, whereas in the deep ponds the penetration of light depends upon the transparency of water, amount of dissolved or suspended particles, nutrients and number of animals as well as plants. Here the amount of dissolved and suspended particle reduce the penetration of the light because there are refraction and diffraction of the light, sunlight within the water, and the heating effect of solar radiation leads to diurnal and seasonal temperature cycle. In the tropical region there is not much variation in temperature, while in the heights of a mountain there is a substantial diurnal variation of temperature. Also the water, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, sulfur, phosphorus are the inorganic substances of the pond. The oxygen and carbon dioxide are present in the water in the dissolved state, while the organic compounds like amino acid, humic acid, root exudate, the breakdown products of dead animal and plant tissues, they are the organic compound present in the pond. They are basically partly dissolved in water and the remaining are accumulated in sediment. The biotic component of a pond can be divided into three groups. They are producer, or they can be called autotroph, consumer, and decomposer or saprotroph. So what is producer and autotroph? So an autotroph is an organism that can produce its own food using light, water, carbon dioxide and other chemicals present in their surrounding. In the pond, the producer can be grouped into two groups, rooted plant as well as floating plant. Floating plants are also called phytoplankton. Their example may be the Spirogyra, diatom and volvox, where the rooted plants can be rupia and chara. So then what is consumer? Consumers are also called heterotroph. These organisms cannot produce their own food. Instead, they take nutrition from other sources like plant, animal matter. Here you can see one bird, a fish and one deer. They are all consumer, and human also is a consumer. Then comes decomposer. Decomposer is an organism, especially a fungus and bacteria, that lives on and gets its nourishment from the dead organisms or decaying organic material. Saprophytes always recycle organic matter in the soil. Particularly in the pond ecosystem, these decomposers are present at the bottom of the pond. So let's discuss about structure and function of an ecosystem. So important features of an ecosystem will be species composition, stratification and trophic level. Here in the image you can see the trophic level of an ecosystem. Here the trophic level are primary consumer, the primary producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer and tertiary consumer. So at the first trophic level, that is primary consumer, plant will be present. At the second trophic level, they are the primary consumer or herbivore. They are like zooplankton, grasshopper and cow which feed on the plant. Secondary consumer are birds, fish and wolf which feed on the zooplankton, grasshopper and cow. And the topmost of this trophic level is tertiary consumer. They are the man and lion, where the man and lion utilize bird and fishes as their food material. So what is species composition? Species composition is basically a community. It is also called biological community, that is assemblage of many populations that are living together at a same place and time. One of the example of composition is tropical forest community. Here the assemblage of many population of trees, vine, herbs and shrubs. We can also learn about that different ecosystem has different species composition, and there is also an other term called ecosystem balance and stability. Here the total number and type of species present in a community determine the balance and stability of an ecosystem. Then comes what is stratification. Stratification is the vertical and horizontal distribution of plant in an ecosystem. Here in the forest we can find that there is tall tree, short tree, shrubs, herbs and grass. These are actually one type of vertical stratification. Here at the each layer of the strata has its characteristics of flora as well as fauna. Then the another component of an ecosystem is food chain and food web. Food chain is basically a series of organisms that eat one another so that energy as well as nutrients flow from one to next. Here one of the example of food chain is grasses, grasshopper, the frog, snakes and hawk or eagle. Here actually grasshopper eats consumes grasses, then grasshoppers are consumed by frogs, then snakes feed on grasses, while the snakes are consumed as a food for the eagle. Here the each step in the food chain is called trophic level, as we have discussed earlier. Then another term comes the gross primary productivity, and another is net primary productivity. Gross primary productivity is the total rate at which the radiant energy is stored by the process of photosynthesis in green plant, while the net primary productivity is the plant utilize a portion of its gross primary productivity for their own upkeep, metabolism and reproduction. The respiration process generates the energy needed for each of these. This remaining amount of energy stored in plant is called net primary productivity. Actually this net primary productivity is available for consumption to the next trophic level organisms. Apart from that, there are some special feeding group which are called consumer. They are scavenger, omnivore and parasite. The animals that feed on the dead plants and animal are called scavenger. They are like termite, beetles, vulture, while the omnivores, they consume both plant as well as animals. Human beings is a particular example of omnivore. Also there is parasite. Actually they exist and feed on other living beings which are called as a host. In addition to feeding their host, these parasite infect their host with the diseases. So then comes food web. There is you can be confused with food chain and food web, but a food chain is actually a linear combination of the animals and plants being eaten, while a food web is a consist of all the food chain present in the single ecosystem. In this food web, the food chains are always interconnected and overlapping. Then comes the flow of energy through an ecosystem. So this is basically the transfer of energy through various trophic level of food chain. Here it follows actually the Lindman's 10% law. Here in this picture you can show the sunlight is taken up by autotroph, and that is around 10,000 kilocalorie. After that the 1000 kilocalorie energy comes from herbivore. Here you can find the 10% of 10,000 kilocalorie is 1000 kilocalorie. Similarly, from 1000 kilocalorie it is transmitted to next trophic level as 100 kilocalorie, and at the secondary carnivore it is 10 kilocalorie. Therefore you can see at the each level there is a 10% decrease in energy transmitted. This is conceptualized by Lindman, which is called as a Lindman's 10% law. And also there is called ecological pyramid. Ecological pyramid is basically the relationship between various living things at various trophic level. So the concept of this ecological pyramid was given by Charles Elton. There are basically three types of ecological pyramid. One is pyramid of number, pyramid of biomass, and as well as pyramid of energy. Here at the pyramid of number, we count the number of organisms present at each trophic level, while at the pyramid of biomass we count the biomass or weight of the organism present at each trophic level, while at the pyramid of energy we calculate the amount of energy available to consumption to particular plant and animal in each trophic level. Here the particularly pyramid of energy is always upright. Apart from that, there are several biotic interaction found in our natural ecosystem. There is also interspecific interaction, that is the two different species. Also there is intraspecific interaction, that is the two different individuals of the same species. And the based on type of interaction, these interaction can be categorized into several group. The first one is the negative interaction, that is amensalism and predation. Here in the amensalism, one species is inhibited while the other species are unaffected, while in the predation the one species is benefit, which is called predator, and the second species, that is called prey, is harmed and inhibited. And also there is parasitism. In the parasitism, the host will be harmed while the parasites will take help from the host in terms of water as well as nutrients. While in the competition, the competition for resources adversely affect both of the species. As a result, no one will be benefited. Also there is positive association. Here it is, one of them is called commensalism. Here one species is benefited and other species is neither benefited or nor harmed. Also there is a term called neutralism. Here the neither species affect other or neither is harmed or inhibited. Also there is mutualism or symbiosis. Here it is found particularly in case of leguminous plant and rhizobium. Here both are benefited with the help of one another. Then there is another term is called biome. Biome is basically a large naturally occurring community of flora and fauna occupying a major habitat. Each biome is characterized by the uniform life form of vegetation like grass, desert, plant, deciduous trees or coniferous trees. Biome is of two types. One other is terrestrial biome, that is tundra, forest, desert and grassland. Another one is aquatic biome, that is freshwater and marine biome. One of the example of terrestrial biome is tropical rainforest, which is found mostly in western coast of India and northeastern Himalaya. It is found where the rainfall is greater than 200 cm per year. Here we can found the evergreen trees. Another terrestrial biome is temperate deciduous forest. They are mostly found in the northwestern, central and eastern Europe, also in Korea, Japan, Far Eastern Russia and Australia. Here the annual rainfall is around 75 to 150 cm. Here basically soil is brown and rich in nutrients. Also the other type of forest is coniferous forest. It is called taiga or boreal forest, mostly found in Arctic tundra and North America. Here the soil is poor in nutrient and the vegetation is acidic in nature. Then another term comes, what is ecological succession. Ecological succession is the process by which communities of a plant and animal of a species in an area are replaced by another over a period of time. There are basically two types of succession. One is primary succession, another is secondary succession. The primary succession is quite difficult here because at first the bare rock is colonized by the lichen, then small annual plant, then perennial herbs, grasses generates there, and ultimately at the final stage the shade tolerant trees are grown. Here at the primary succession, the communities, the plant communities which comes at the earlier stage, it is called pioneer community. At the intermediate stages of plant are called seral community, and at the final stages they are called climax community. Apart from that, there is also a secondary succession. This is quite faster than the primary succession. Here, because the soil is already present and the seed, roots and underground vegetative organs of the previous population still exist in the soil. So here the cycling of nutrient in the biosphere is called the biogeochemical cycle. Actually, it involves the movement of nutrient element through various component of ecosystem. So there are the biogeochemical cycles can be categorized in carbon cycle. These carbon cycles are how the atmospheric CO2 is distributed in the different components of a environment through the process of photosynthesis, decomposition, respiration, fossilization and carbonization. And also there is water cycle. In the water cycle, basically the water is evaporated from ocean and river. At the upper level of atmosphere they form cloud, and from there precipitation happens, and after that they go to the groundwater as well as they rain off into ocean, and from there plant will take up and they contribute to respiration as well as evaporation. Also there is a phosphorus cycle. Phosphorus is the main phosphorus is called energy currency for the human because it is a part of ATP. In the phosphorus cycle, the natural source is phosphate rock, guano, fossil, bone deposit, volcano and apatite, and from that through erosion, excretion as well as through protoplasmic synthesis they come to the plants, animals and bacterial body. I hope student you have understand the chapter principles of ecology in today's class. Thank you. We will again meet in the with some another biology topic. Thank you.